How's it going, Central? With the fall starting, we are going to talk a little bit about some of our upcoming ministries. I've got Pastor Chris Tomes here. He's going to share a little bit about community groups. Just want to say thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. So, a couple questions for you.
Yes, sir.
First one that I have.
All right.
What is the goal of discipleship?
Wow. Starting off easy, aren't we?
Super easy.
Gosh. So the goal of discipleship, that's a great question to start off with, because that really frames everything we do here, right? Like if we're not making disciples, we're not accomplishing our mission, our vision, our strategy, any of that. So when I think of discipleship, and I love analogies, and so I'm going to use this analogy. When I think of discipleship and making disciples, I think of an apple tree. And so I'm going to ask you, what's the goal of an apple tree?
I would say to grow me some apples.
Absolutely, and that's a great answer. But I would take it a step farther and say the goal of an apple tree is to make more apple trees, right? Like in every apple, there's seeds for multiple apple trees. And so the goal of an apple tree is to make more apple trees and eventually fill an orchard. So when I think of discipleship, making disciples, I think of not only making or producing someone who bears fruit on their own, but then taking that a step further to say the goal of discipleship is to make more disciples that make disciples that make disciples, fill that orchard, fill that kingdom. And so at Central, we yes, absolutely want individually us to be bearing fruit, fruit of the Spirit. That's totally a goal. But then the next component of discipleship and making disciples is making more disciples that make disciples that make disciples on down to the fourth, fifth, sixth generation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay. Yeah. So you talk a little bit about discipleship. I think that's at least for me, that helps explain some things. It's not just one apple tree. You want a whole orchard of apple trees. So you're bearing fruit in and amongst yourself, but then you're also taking someone along with you.
Yeah.
So with that kind of being a little bit of the premise, why should I join a group? What's the point of groups?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've kind of come up with this language. Jerry and I have come up with this way to communicate community groups at Central. And we want everyone to think of it as this discipleship highway. And so we're all familiar with what a highway is. We have the 14, it's a nice, easy highway to get on. The on-ramps, the off-ramps, everything's easy to figure out. And so when we want to paint a picture of discipleship at Central, we want people to think of community groups as that primary highway. What the majority of people are on, and we're all going in the same direction. We all have a clear path, destination, which is discipleship and making more disciples, and it's just ongoing. And not to say that other ministries aren't important. Like they're integral in what we do here in making disciples. But really, everything should be an on-ramp into a community group. Because in community group, that's where we start to see life change happen for the whole family. We're in the business of transforming families to live and love like Jesus. Our strategy for that is gather, grow, and impact. And so when we come together as a community group, we're accomplishing essentially what the early church sought to accomplish. They gathered together in homes. They grew, they studied the apostles' teachings, they broke bread together. But not only that, they had an impact in their communities, in their region, and to the ends of the earth. And so when we say you should join a community group, it's not because we just want to see everyone doing the same thing. It's because we are convinced this is the best way to live out true discipleship for the whole family, for the entire family unit. So your kids can see you having life-changing relationships with other believers and set those spiritual rhythms for them as well. So when we're all pulling in the same direction on the discipleship highway, we're going to see multiplication start to take place as groups are all pulling in that same direction. Multiplication happens naturally, and when that happens naturally internally, we'll see that happen externally, and we'll start to plant churches. Healthy things grow, and so as our community groups are all pulling in the same direction, we're going to see discipleship happening down to the fourth, fifth, sixth generation. We're going to see that orchard start to grow, and then Central will naturally grow and plant churches out of that. So that's why I get excited about community groups. Obviously, I want you to experience that joy. Everyone could say, hey, join my ministry and you'll get more joy. And I think that's absolutely true. But I'm convinced the most joy to be had is with your family in a community group.
All right. So if you want joy, join a community group.
Yep.
Remember that. And I have one last kind of question for you. Are you up for a tongue twister?
Okay.
This one's called Rubber Baby Buggy Bumpers.
Rubber baby. Like a rubber baby. Like
the Rubber Baby Buggy Bumpers. A little buggy that you push a baby in. Bumpers to protect it.
like bumper cars.
Yes.
For a baby.
Yes.
Seems
So,
legit,
Rubber
yeah.
Baby Buggy Bumpers.
What?
Rubber Baby Buggy Bumpers.
You want me to say it?
I want you to say it. Let's hear it.
No, hold on. I can do this. Rubber baby what?
Rubber Baby Buggy Bumpers.
Rubber baby buggy bumpers.
There you go.
Nailed
All
it.
right.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Well, thanks for your time,
That's
man.
ridiculous.
I appreciate you coming in today. And again, if you want joy, join a community group.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Scott. It was great to see y'all.